Welcome to the Godness Podcast, where we discuss conscious and uplifting topics to help us all along our spiritual journeys. My name is Brianna, and today we have a very special guest, and I'm going to let him introduce himself right now. Terrence?
Hola. No, I'm just kidding. Hi, greetings to all. Terrence. Can I say this? I am an artist, speaker, a holistic teacher. It's so many things that I could express, but that's all becoming of who I am. But I am a native of North Carolina, a small city called Monroe. And let's see, what else? I'm just really here to drop some little secrets. Not really no secret, but more so let you in my world. And really, truly, it's like, how could I inspire people? But there's so many other things that it's gonna just get ready, snuggle up, whatever you need to do, take your deep breaths, and prepare for something that's gonna change and rock your world. It may be triggering, but true leader will be yourself, okay?
Yes. Yeah, so we brought Terrence onto the Godness Podcast because we love his spiritual journey and just who he is as an individual. And here it's all about just sharing our journey, sharing our own experiences to help us all, right? We're not doctors, we're not, therapists, psychiatrists, none of that. We are just beings, right? Having this human experience and sharing with one another how we are able to continuously elevate, grow, in the hopes that it helps someone else and inspires someone else to also continue to elevate, grow, and live a life out in love, purely in love. So that actually brings me to our topic today, which is the art of self-love. And I'm so excited to have Terrence here to really walk us through just his own experiences. And I'll be sharing with you all as well. So let's go ahead and get into this topic, okay? So first off, I want to start off with the definition. You guys know I love a good definition. So what is the definition of self-love? Okay. Self-love is the regard for one's own well-being and happiness, chiefly considered as desirable rather than narcissistic characteristics. So basically they're saying that this is more desirable than being narcissistic, right? So you can love yourself without being a narcissist. Okay. That's actually interesting that they put that in there.
I didn't even know that.
And yeah, that's really interesting. They put it like in parentheses, that part, chiefly considered as a desirable rather than a narcissistic characteristic. And I feel like that's kind of like, because when you talk about really loving on yourself, or when you start talking about yourself too much, people kind of get this selfishness vibe or a narcissistic vibe from people. Yeah. But really, that's not even that. To me, that shouldn't even be in the definition of self-love. That's just weird. But that's the definition. So
I can see both
that's what we're going with. You can. Okay. All right. Well, what do you mean? What's your thoughts on it?
Because I myself was a narcissistic before I came to this journey of loving myself. And that's first having to acknowledge where you learn or the learned behavior came from. Because we're talking about a society who also preyed on the woundings, our childhood woundings. So we can't really say that we had parents or guardians or people who actually honor self-love. We are now embracing that. We are now changing that narrative. So in actuality, we all have been affected in a way and fueled narcissism, or in a way of a distorted mother and father being affected, whether it be our childhood. And a lot of things I didn't see until now, being 33.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that word narcissism, because it's so saturated, it's so used so abruptly, so much. It's just like a control
Mm-hmm.
freak that has to
Yes.
have it their way, seeing no accountability. See, self-love
Mm-hmm.
forces you to see yourself, to see your shadow.
Yes. Yes, because you have to first start with self-awareness when you are working on yourself and realizing, okay, maybe I don't love myself a whole lot. I know for me, I was like, there's a difference between loving yourself and being in a state of like fight or flight, right? So if someone's attacking you and you run and you want to save your life, right? That is a natural response. That doesn't mean that you love yourself because you're willing to protect yourself or stand up for yourself. Doesn't mean that you actually love yourself. That requires a new type of self awareness and really going in and asking yourself, like, what do I really love about me?
Yeah.
Not just based off of like survival,
Yeah.
right? I want to do more than survive. I want to live and I want to live in my truth of who I am and love who I am. And if there's things about myself that I don't quote unquote like at this moment, or there's things that I want to change in areas I want to grow in, what are those areas? And so it really starts with just a level, for me anyways, in my journey, a level of just being aware of who I am in this moment and where am I trying to go.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The thing with it,
So
oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead. No.
I was getting like revelation as you were saying that. The thing, even with a narcissistic person, is that some people don't realize is that they don't know how to heal because they were never shown. So that
Yeah.
even the thing with narcissism is that how do you know, and that's the polarity of things. How do you know something and you don't realize where how this is being fueled? See, that's what a lot of us are being forced to see. You have to be forced to see who you are in order to even embrace who you are. And if you really look at a control freak or a narcissist, they are forced to see and love the parts of themselves that they try to so desperately change in others, that they refuse to see within themselves.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, it's because it's almost like you also have to have like, I think you need to know when you're dealing with a narcissist and when you are in that type of situation, right? But it's like you also have to have this level of awareness of everyone is who they are because of a combination of things, right? They are the way that they are because of a sum of their own experiences. And like you said, the word narcissist has been very polarized, like especially in this time. And and I mean, in general, right, it's more of a negative word when you think of it. It's more of a negative characteristic to describe a person. But in talking about it in this way, it kind of is bringing up like, okay, you have to be empathetic even for those people. Now, you may want to get away from them. That's for sure.
Yeah.
If they are, intruding on your life and causing negative ruin around you, right? You want to separate yourself from that. But being mindful and empathetic and compassionate and understanding that people are the way that they are because of some total of their own experiences, their own life journey. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind too. And being compassionate for a narcissist or just for anyone in general helps you be more compassionate for yourself. And when you can get to that level where you can be compassionate for people who may not be seemingly the nicest people or the kindest people, it'll just help you in being more empathetic for your own self. So that's good. I like that. I didn't, yeah, that was a new revelation for me personally. Let's be empathetic with even the narcissists
Yeah,
of the
because
world.
the thing is, we're so passionate
Mm-hmm.
at being in control. Once you start to
Mm-hmm.
really love yourself, what is control? Because that's surrendering to all the emotions that you were afraid of, all the things the versions of yourself, the past versions of yourself that you didn't want to see, that you didn't want to acknowledge, whether it be your mother, your father, relationships, partners. In a way,
Mm-hmm.
you know, upon a journey, everyone doesn't get to this place. That doesn't still mean that they aren't valuable. Even a narcissist is valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everything is valuable, and that's when you have to really know, well, do I see the value in myself? Because if I'm projecting, because we all only project from our own experiences. That's our
Right.
love language. It's just like growing up in a physical abusive home. Again, I don't got to go to a psych ward. Shoot, I was living in a psych ward because you had mentally ill people that to the world or to them, it's like they really never knew. I think what really fuels a narcissist is that we give them too much of the responsibility of loving us.
Mm, that is actually a very, very, very good point, because you put people in the position of power
Or of God
over you.
or the creator. You put people in that position.
Yes,
And that's where the
that is
expectations
actually,
is. Someone shared with me, it's
yes.
like, how could I, what is that? How could I lift you up? I mean, how could I, what is it? Like lift you up in a way to where, you know, without me getting tired. Like we can lift
Hmm.
people up. That doesn't mean you can't say encouraging things, but is that language also with ourselves? You
Hmm.
know, so
Yeah.
I think we're
That,
learning now not to give so much responsibility to
yes.
external things rather than taking when we come into accountability, then we hold ourselves more to a higher standard of responsibility for our own everything first. That was never taught to
Hmm.
us.
Yes. Because like when you're growing up, right? If you're in a household with someone who is exemplifying narcissistic behavior, there's not much you can do about that at that point, right? You're a child, right? But in our adulthood, as we grow older and have more control over our circumstances, where we go, who we hang out with, um, we can really decide, right, who has access to us and what we allow to actually be a part of our everyday experience. And so, like when you were mentioning how you grew up in a household where there was mental illness and things present. So I'm thinking also about patterns and things. So people see this thing growing up, and so then they either perpetuate it by mimicking it in themselves. Oh, the camera. Hold on. Perpetuate it by mimicking it within themselves, or they allow those same type of people, situations into their lives because that's all that they are really
Ooh.
used to.
Lord. Hey, don't get me started now. All I'm gonna say from that is yes. Yes, it even
Yeah.
whew. See, this is where it really takes a lot of courage to even speak up on these things because um seeing the bigger picture is not only seeing yourself individually, but seeing how this is going to have a ripple effect on everyone. So that being said, even
Mm,
from my own experience, I had a mother that at that moment chose drugs in the streets. Um, there were moments where shoot, I self reflect on these things, but also realize how it is a catalyst. You know,
mhm,
my grandmother was my mother at certain times, where she was forced to actually take care of not only my mom 3 kids, but also my aunt had 9 kids. So she was forced to be in a position to take care of, my aunt didn't have 3 kids until later down the line, but my grandmother took care of 6 grandkids. So,
wow.
you're talking about seeing my grandmother having to raise, um, unknowingly, her childhood or her experience was pretty much robbed from her, so she had to take care of 6 kids.
Mhm,
Seeing that, so
yeah.
seeing that matriarchal figure being removed from my mother and grandmother, I'm wondering, like, well, where's my mom? All
Mhm,
these things, stemming from childhood experiences, and we're like sponges. We're simply
mhm,
just soaking things up, and we don't realize how much of what we're not unlearning, but unprogramming ourselves from. Just
mhm,
the in and out. Coming in. It's just so many things I learned. Knowing the experience where being naive or seeing the narcissistic behavior young. Where I we're in a home where you're seeing so much physical abuse. You know, if this doesn't happen, then they start fighting. Or if I don't do something correctly, then, you know, the boyfriend that she dated at the time would, well, you need to whoop his, you know, in a sense of just feeling in control, because a lot of people don't know a narcissist does things to where it's never you know, error in what they do. It's more so just to fuel their power. Like, okay, I'm in control in a way.
Yeah.
So a lot of us, again, especially with my experience, is that we soak up these things and don't realize unconsciously when we attract people or connect to people in partnerships. I always tell people, men and women, but men, especially myself, that image of what I saw a woman to be, we hold that image in our spiritual mind, you know, in our essence of what it is to be nurtured, what it is to be loved, how it is to receive that love, you know, all those things, again, when we don't even realize, like, hold on, my mama never knew love, my grandmother never knew love. And it gets so deep to where my grandmother's husband at the time, when we were younger, he was so, I'm telling you, it was just home to home, but he actually shot my mother and grandmother.
Wow.
So they're both still alive, but my grandmother was shot in the stomach and survived, and my mother was shot, I believe, in the breast area and survived. So it's so much intertwined with that. You're trying to make sense of this from childhood till now.
Yeah.
When, you know, I've had to sit down with my grandmother, I'd be like, well, why you still let this man that's no longer your husband still come around? Still make his, you know, presence known. So a lot of these distorted ways where it's so easy for us to point the finger at who's doing what wrong, and a lot of these things is really us hiding from our own selves.
Yes.
We're trying to live out our childhood woundings, you know, unconsciously and really consciously, because some of us are aware, knowing what we're doing. That's the narcissist that's being fueled to where, you know what, I can change this, but I'm so comfortable in the uncomfortable rather than being uncomfortable in the comfortable.
Yes, that. First of all, thank God.
Yeah, seeing our parents and people stay in somewhere too long, you know, and it's like you're somewhere so long to where it's like you can smell the poop, but you stay in the ish so long that you don't even smell it no more. It just becomes so, you know, like, you know what, I'm just gonna lay in this, so it doesn't even matter.
Changing your life can feel hard. I feel like everybody has been at a point where, like, if you are trying to grow in any aspect of your life, you have dealt with some difficulty because you have your programming, your past, your thoughts, your DNA telling you, or trying to run the show, right? Trying to recreate what you already know because that's what's within you, right? So it is difficult to rearrange and to change these patterns and then to detach from what happened. It happened. That's true. And the feelings and the emotions and all that stuff that surrounded those things is valid. However, when you want to move in a different direction, it requires some strength. It requires some work. It requires you to do something different than you've ever done before. And so that is difficulty within itself, no matter what it is. But when you get into, you know, childhood traumas, when you get into breaking narcissistic generational cycles, right? That comes with a new level of difficulty, but we have to be, if we truly want to grow and to change and to live a better quality of life, and to truly, truly love on ourselves, then we have to find that inner strength from source, right? Your highest self, whatever you need to do to really push past the pain that is involved in that, because I know that it's painful. We know that it's painful. It is not an easy transition, but it is so necessary. And that's why we really wanted to talk about the art of self-love, because the art of self-love is really the requirement of being self-aware of what's happening with you, what has gone on to create your current reality. And how do you shift, right? How do you shift from where you are and catapult yourself into loving yourself truly, even with all the scars, with all the drama, with all the stuff in the past? How do you love yourself right now with all of that? And then thinking about your highest self, right? That the person that you already are, but that you are truly aspiring to be in this current reality, right?
Yeah.
And in loving yourself now, you can truly embody that and become that now. And then you'll see it in your now, like in your actual physical reality, right? But it definitely is a process, especially when we're working through a lifetime. And that's another thing. We're working through, you know, so much stuff from, I mean, seriously, if you're just starting this journey, you're trying to break down 10, 20, 30, however old you are, 40, 50, 60 years, even more of
It's much deeper
the
than
past.
that.
Yeah.
It's like I express to people, healing is a lifelong journey. It's like an onion. Like once you peel back one layer, one thing I learned is like you thinking that, okay, this journey is self-love. Like, first of all, you're not just loving, like for you, for instance, or myself. I'm not just learning to love 33, years young Terrence or years old Terrence. No, I have to go back and love the Terrence that, again, was birthed into this world through traumatic experiences. A lot of us were birthed from traumatic experiences, and a lot of what's being called for us now, those that are aware, some may, and that's why you see the popularity now with the spiritual journey. I'm like, but you still can't hide from you because energy doesn't lie. So,
Yeah.
and I always give people this analogy, and especially to our women, because on my journeys, and I don't claim to be of any religion or anything, because I feel like remaining a student, you learn through everyone. But I do know and have awareness of how,
Oh, I love that.
like the mothers are the first teachers. They teach you everything. And it doesn't just start physically, it starts spiritually. Because let's say you, for instance, when you were, let's say your grandmother was pregnant with your mom. And so you're talking about, let's say, 4 or 5 months alone, you were an egg inside of your mother, inside of your grandmother's womb. So, essence, whatever your grandmother experienced traumatically, whatever she was battling mentally, physically, spiritually, that is passed through the wombs of our women.
Yes.
So what's being recovered in this, when we talk about self-love, you're talking about a women that don't even know what it is to feel safe or secure within themselves, to even know what that looks like. So you come along and be like, hey, welcome to the self-love journey. Welcome to the spiritual journey. Come along, join along. Not to mention terms and conditions of shadow work, facing all your greatest fears, facing yourself, facing the self that didn't feel worthy of even being a daughter, a son, a being, or feeling acknowledged. Then this goes all the way back to your childhood. So you're not just loving, you're loving your body again. You're loving your mental. You're learning what isn't you. What was your mother's projection, what she projected on you and her fears. So you're discarding those things. You're ridding yourself of all these things now to become aware, like, and it's just like dressing up all these things, masking and putting on all these clothes, doing all these things, and you're talking about to the root of everything, And that saying goes, judge a man by the fruit. And so you can look at someone and literally, as you become more aware, on this journey, you can be able to be like, whoa, because that compassion first comes with passion. What fuels you? And so you got to first, we're learning to have that compassion for ourselves now at the ages. This is happening for everyone, no matter what their age is, because you're talking about being so naked in the world when you're young to now. It's like, dang, I've been fooling myself. Oh man, we're trying to get back to that place has what source or the creator, the most high, has seen us as, naked you come, naked
Yeah.
you shall leave.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't, if when you start to really love self, that doesn't consist of like going out here and that's an integrity thing. Are you ready for the naysayers? Are you ready to go in that cocoon? Because that's what I know what self-care is all about. Are you ready to be that caterpillar that can survive your own darkness, your own everything, and then to emerge as a butterfly? Are you ready for that? No one can be ready for that. And that's choosing to seclude yourself. It doesn't mean you don't love those people. That's where compassion comes in. You're just choosing better mentally,
Yeah.
physically, spiritually. All those things encompass that when you're talking about self-love journey.
Yeah. So when you're talking about the cocooning process, right? As we are all caterpillars, and I feel like everyone here listening to this, right? You're listening to this for a reason because you are already, on this journey. The journey starts even before we even realize it, right? We've been on this journey for eons, okay? But now that we're bringing awareness to this and we're noticing now that we are at different stages, caterpillar, butterfly, cocooning, whatever we're doing right now, right?
Yeah.
When you're talking about this cocooning phase, and though, let's talk about a little bit deeper into that. Like, how important is it to have this phase of really spending time by yourself and with yourself? And how important is that for just loving on yourself deeply?
I'm glad you mentioned that because that's beautiful. A lot of as an artist, if you want to use that term or title, um, I had to learn that process into becoming that. See,
Mm-hmm.
one thing I know from my own journey is that, first of all, you also have to realize that caterpillar is also in that survival mode because it's inching along in life. It still has its purpose and its value. It's trying to
Yeah.
survive from attacks from birds or certain things that's
Mm-hmm.
on the ground level per se. Then it has
Mm-hmm.
to find its way up a tree. Again, your whole mind perception changes. The caterpillar first chooses to be a butterfly, not to return to being a caterpillar.
Mm-hmm.
So it finds its way wherever it's meant to go. And I remember when we used to do this in like elementary school, and I'm glad we're talking about this, is that we would go find those caterpillars and then bring them into the classroom, put them in like a little
Mm-hmm.
see-through box or whatever you call it, and
Yeah.
allow it,
Mm-hmm.
see the process. Every day we like, oh man, I can't wait to see what day. But to see that process now, it's like we have to realize that the caterpillar, in a sense, and this is my perception of it, is the unevolved version, unhealthy version, that is refusing to be a butterfly. Because not everyone, and I think this is what a challenge for a lot of people, is that not everyone in your life, family, friends, whatever you want to call it, are not going to accept that role into being a butterfly. Some won't even make it, meaning a physical death. Because and that's more we're gonna talk about. Like you're talking about in that cocoon, metaphysically, you're talking about a place of darkness. And I was literally just writing a
Mm-hmm.
poem on that. It's like you're going into that cocoon, and it's like really returning to like the womb of your mother. It's like you're going back into that dark state
Mm-hmm.
to where it's unfamiliar, it's unknown, and your shadow even leaves you when you're in the darkness. So you're forced to see the light. You're forced
Yeah.
to see the light within yourself. So in that cocoon stage, you're talking about, and I always express this to people, I'm like, people will never know what you have went through in that stage. And that's when you come to know whether you want to use the term God, the most high source, or the creator. That's when you come to know within who you really are. And not only that, what
Mm-hmm.
you're becoming.
Yes.
Okay.
I love that. This theme actually this I love this analogy because this theme of just like becoming a butterfly has been very, very like prevalent for me. And I was listening to a gentleman, his name is Dr. Mahdi, and he was talking about how, and you just described how you can help the caterpillar like get into the little container, and then the caterpillar will go and, cocoon and then break out of that, which is cool because you can lead the caterpillar there. But when it comes to breaking out of the cocoon, you actually cannot help that caterpillar break out of that
Oh,
cocoon. If you try to help the caterpillar break out and see the light, it would literally die. And so Dr. Mahdi was talking about this process. He was saying that the process of the caterpillar breaking out of the cocoon is actually strengthening the butterfly to take flight. It's actually giving it what it needs to survive and to thrive as a butterfly. So if somebody comes in and tries to say like, oh no, I'm just going to help this butterfly along the way, I'm going to help it break out of the darkness, no one can break you out of your own darkness. In order for you to thrive, just like the
you're your own
caterpillar
savior.
transitioning from you're your own savior. And that's what I was getting at, which is so beautiful. So I was just saying, I really love this analogy because I always refer to myself as a butterfly, not knowing before knowing all of this, the science and all of that behind it. But just because that's how I relate, I just relate to feeling like a butterfly. I also feel like the avatar sometimes, but we don't have to talk about that.
And there's more into the butterfly thing as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's beautiful how you mentioned like even if it comes out too soon. And also in
Yeah.
that dark place is that um if it leaves too soon, not only will it die, but the butterfly can also make its presence, known. But if it leaves too soon and fall, it can break its wings, not never knowing when to, or not never knowing how to fly. And what most people don't know, a butterfly never sees its wings. It knows that it's there. And also when you're
Mm-hmm.
coming out of that state of, emerging into the world a new version of yourself because you've accepted all the past versions, which are people in your life of yourself, acknowledging those things. But also when you emerge, notice that a butterfly doesn't have a direction. It's like, I want you to see me. Also,
Mm-hmm.
monarchs, butterflies, I saw this when I was living in Oakland. There was a mural on the wall. Did you know monarchs, butterflies, migrate around the world? They actually
No, I didn't know.
migrate and meet other butterflies. Because this may sound crazy. I was like, hold on, did a butterfly have to mate with a caterpillar? But I didn't see it until again on another journey. I was in Ohio and I actually saw two butterflies mating, and I was like, oh, that's
Mm.
how the caterpillar comes. So in
Oh,
reality, it may sound like aha. A lot of people didn't know that. So y'all didn't know that because I
no,
didn't know that. But
I
they
didn't know
actually
that.
mate together, producing another worm or, uh, yeah, another
Caterpillar.
caterpillar. And see,
Yeah.
man, I'm telling, I can go so deep with this. You're talking about even being with people who,
Hmm.
consciously not at this mindset and what I would call considerably unequally yoked. It's not that you haven't
Hmm.
met each other purposely, but that's that saying goes where you outgrow each other, but you still you don't hinder yourself from still being a butterfly. You have to
Hmm.
show your presence to the world as what we're doing right now. We're not here to hide. You see, that's the thing
Yeah.
about when people go into that stage of a caterpillar, you're coming out like, dang, when you're facing all those emotions and all those things of unworthiness,
Hmm.
suppressed emotion, because when you look at suppressed, depressed, and all oppressed, it's like pressure. So you're talking about stuff that's built up. And now you're talking
Hmm.
about this. A caterpillar is like pushing the. Look, you're gonna be a butterfly today.
Yeah.
You're a catalyst. So
Yeah.
you're really now a
Hmm.
catalyst, and you have to fly away. You have to be away
Yeah.
from people, and that's the balance in
Yeah.
life. It's like it's not that I don't love you. I just love me more in that moment to choose me. So in that choosing
Mm.
me, I'm choosing to see my own darkness that you refuse to see. So then when I reappear to you, And this is what you'll learn in your journey. You'll see who really has loved themselves and who really know what that looks like, because either they're going to demonstrate that they are afraid of their darkness, or they never have stepped into that dark place. Because that butterfly knows that it's both light and dark. I've seen butterflies with ripped wings that still fly. Like, ain't that amazing? I'm like,
no, I love that. That actually brings me to thinking about, how people really can be afraid of the darkness, but really just being afraid of themselves, afraid of their own light. And I think that in us even doing this podcast and coming together today, like you said, right, not being afraid of that, right? Or even if you are afraid, still pushing past that fear and not allowing that fear to paralyze you, right? Because the more you practice expressing yourself, practice living in your light, the easier and easier and easier it will become. And the more and more you'll be able to step into your truest power. But on a practical level, I want to talk to people who are like, okay, well, I want to really understand myself more. I want to be more self-aware. I want to love myself deeply, right? How much time, or like, how should I go about, really doing this, right? So me practically, like as a mom, it was kind of difficult to say, hey, I need time for myself. Like I need to go meditate, right? I need an hour. At first, I dealt with so much guilt around that. And even now, sometimes I still do have moments where I feel like right now is not a good time to ask for help. Even if I feel like I need a moment, I'm like, this right now may not be, the best time to ask for this help. But for people, everyone has some sort of responsibilities, things that they need to do, right? But you have to set aside a specific amount of time so that you can really, really spend some time with yourself in meditation and prayer, to journal, whichever way allows you to really hone in with spirit, or to just relax and allow, I don't know, just like your own thoughts to kind of to process. I remember when we were talking before the podcast, you were saying like how a lot of us have never spent time with ourselves, right? We have always been up under people. We have always constantly been doing and doing and doing. And that was my life, y'all, like my life. And I was so anxious. That I didn't even know that I had anxiety, because I was so used to being in fight or flight.
Yep.
Right. So in order to truly love yourself, you have to bring this self-awareness. And the only way to be self-aware is to spend some time with yourself. So making sure that you are setting aside that time, I would say at least, an hour. If you could do an hour a day, you don't have to start there though. You don't have to start there. You could start with 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, and work your way up to that hour, because that hour is something different. Okay. Because you really have a moment to just relax, and like, okay, I don't just have 5 minutes and then I got to go. So what would you say about that? Just like spending, how much time do you think people really would need?
Look, I like it. Look, so I like to call myself a solutionist, but in the word solution, I like to say solution. But in a way of like everything that you said, I was like, dang, you just hitting the net. Like, I'm glad she said that, because, see, this is where, where we have to realize that a lot of us are coming out at this moment, because individually we have our own journey, but collectively, this is why a lot of us are taking inspired action. And this is why this is happening. And I'm grateful for it. It's that you have people coming out of their shadow, emerging as a butterfly. You got people now going in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're talking about their career. You're talking about as a mother, father. You're talking about so millions, probably billions of people. And
yeah.
You're talking about the root structure of it all, which that goes back even to the family dynamic. You're also speaking about like how, how it may look to you may not look that way to, everyone else, even myself. Yeah. Because it was a journey even getting to that place. And yes, we should take an hour. But how many of us have that to give, to offer? And see, this goes back to even the root of like how our mothers, our mothers were forced to be in a position. Because this goes to like if somebody you can use a Jim Crow. It goes back so deep to where you have to look at the root to find the solution. Because it's so much. Oh, we can tell people verbally, but it's also like the inner child, the little person in us that, well, what about direction? You got people that suffer from anxiety, mental illness. They don't even know how that looks. So that's why it takes a lot of us to get to this place to actually give them direction. You got some people that are visual learners. You got some people that are more structural. Seeing things a different way, verbalizing. And see, you're talking about unlearning what we've received in not only the childhood, but schooling, so many things to where our mothers, they never had the resources to do this because they've been so codependent externally and so emotionally attached externally to something that's really unfulfilled. So in a way, they're looking for these things and not even like, it's like a temporary fix in a way. So you're trying to find this, well, how could I do this when I got all these kids? Or how could I do this when, I gotta, take care of these, all these things. So it's so much that's happening to where even with me, it's like finding time to where I don't feel guilty or shameful for taking that time out with myself. You're talking about, this goes back to the narcissistic thing where you've been around people that want to control the narrative. Some people don't even know how to say no, to set those boundaries now. Those healthy boundaries that may seem to someone who's so much of a control freak or wanting to see things go their way. Oh, you selfish for taking care of me? How dare you smile? How dare you be you? How dare you go love on yourself? How dare, and as a man, not to even like devalue our women because they're just as valuable. And I always remind our mothers and women about this. It's like, I no longer blamed you. I wanted to dislike everything about you, but I realized you never had the resources.
Exactly.
Feeling alienated, not only in your home, on your job, but in a whole country. So to even feel safe in a world, in a place, in an environment to even, man, where can I go as a dark, melanated person? Or it's so many other things, dealing culturally with stuff. Where could I go to even feel safe in my own being, to even feel safe away from my kids? But I've been having to do everything for them because that's what my mama knew. That's what my mama did. That's what my father did. That's what, and then the man, a lot of us now, I'm telling people like, look, I'm accountable for me first. I'm learning this now.
Yeah.
A lot of I learned that, is through nature. When people on that journey, it's because what does a mother bird do? It pushes the bird out of the nest to really learn what it is to be self-sufficient. See, a lot of us don't know what it is to be for self first. You're talking about society, structures, governmental structure, a lot of these things to where do for others
is the
before
thing
you do for you.
Yes.
What? Yes. And you wonder why these people running out here with a chicken with their head cut off. Like, what? That's the identity crisis. That's the and that's what a lot of people are suffering from now because they don't even know who they are. So to even say like, okay, yeah, I can go take a moment to myself, but even in that hour, 5 minutes, do you even know how to breathe? Are you even breathing? Do you even know what that is? And then you're talking about, I've been around our women because like I'm observing now, and I'm like, I've seen women that don't even know how to stop. They have to be doing something. They don't know what it is not to be for themselves. You know what I'm saying? And I'm talking about this is for my mothers, my grandmothers.
Yeah.
I've seen this. And this goes back to even what my grandmother had to deal with.
Yes.
Like, you're talking about a lot of our mothers, great grandmothers, they had to take care of everyone. And this goes back to the
Yes.
whole Jim Crow thing, to where the father was removed purposefully for the mother now to be so much of in her masculinity, forgetting about her femininity, forgetting about who she is as a little girl. So when the father was removed, and you're talking about in the elder talked to me about this, it's called like royal energy, and it's like the mother, the son, the father, the daughter. And so what that entails is that if you remove the father, who is there to protect the daughter? Because the daughter is the mother to be, the grandmother to be. So what we've been seeing, and before we can even allow our women to have this space, they first must get to know who they are first. And they don't even know how that looks. Because again, mother, son, father, daughter. The daughter, in essence, what you see in our women, they haven't had guidance. We're now trying to implement that. Because when you move the father, then if you put an S in front of mother, what do you have? Mother.
Yes, mother.
So when the father was removed, this created an imbalance to where the mother began to smother the son. And that's what you see dynamically, like what we're reversing now, generational curse breakers, is like you're seeing that this is why the mother hovers the son so much. It's like women are in unconscious relationships with their sons, trying to live out their fatherly wounds vicariously through their sons, leaving the daughter by herself, fend for herself, which you see in the mothers now, to try to find and figure out things on their own. Not to mention how much the world has tried to devalue everything about you, everything about who you are. And then, and you talking about the daughter, when the father was removed, now we're faced to what? Now the father returns, and it's like the mama is like, well, where you been? I've been doing all, you know what I'm saying? It's so much inner, where you been, right? You know what I'm saying? Yada, yada, yada. And, you know, all these things that's a part of the self-care. That's a part of even taking care of ourselves, is that you have to see your freaking role in what you played. And I always tell women, I'm like, y'all want to listen to us. But you have to realize when you talk about the mother, the son, father, daughter, the mother taught the son first what it is to even, because the son is going to become the father that will teach the daughter the same morals and principles that whatever he learned as the son from his mother. And this is no different to where whatever the father has learned, he will too teach that daughter, you know, her value. And so you're seeing all these things happening to where it's like, where do our value lies? So we're now relearning, even in that self-care or taking a moment out with ourselves. You're talking about millions of women that never knew what that looked like.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely all connected, like when you're going all the way back. No, it's definitely
reversing
yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And
but it's doable. I know it's a lot. It really
now.
is. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Have a healthy conversation, a holistic conversation.
Yeah.
This is what holistic teaching is about. Is first you have to feel whole within yourself. And I've been telling people, you have mothers, and it's not about pointing the finger at them. It's just I always want y'all, like, if I don't see my distorted ways and as the son and the father, then how could I not say, hey, I've been hurting because you've been hurting. So if I got to take out time to myself, sometimes I have to demonstrate that hour, that 5 minutes, that whatever it is, so you can face yourself, so you can look in, you know, I'm only reflecting back you a way that wasn't shown to you. And see, that goes back to that mother that smothers the son. You got women in relationships that, you know, in partnerships where we don't want to acknowledge that the fact that these people don't really know themselves. They don't really love themselves. So it's patience in that. That's where the compassion comes in. When you know that you connected with people, you're like, you know what? You don't just meet somebody and not accept, you're talking about karmically what comes along with them. You're talking about, what is their relationship with their mother and father, if they had a mother and father. So this.
Yeah. And I mean, it's been going on and on and on and on and on. And this is the time for us, like you said, it's happening already, right? That's why we are here to pump the brakes. Okay. Let's pause the movie and change the channel.
I got something to share.
Oh, yeah.
So
what is it?
What we're talking about, the self-care and also the taking a moment out for myself. Yeah. I've had to branch away and be uprooted from people because I no longer wanted to be a part of the dysfunction. And that's things we don't want to acknowledge that's in the family. A part of you being a generational curse breaker is you're going to have to grieve spiritually of, and physically letting people go.
Yeah.
And so even in learning now to take more time to myself, that's accepting the calling of what it is here. How could I inspire others? And so this is like what I just finished the other day with artistry,
Oh, wow.
Me taking a moment to myself. So
that is remarkable.
I'll express this. Yeah. So this is what the and part of loving yourself is also loving the mental illness. You're talking about the back being turned, away, but this is me, like, the woundings, wearing my heart on the sleeve because that's what the world told you to do. Like, oh, no matter what, love yourself. You don't have to protect your heart or guard your heart. Or in essence, we've emotionally built things to guard our heart. And, and this is what a lot of is happening right now is like, in the inside, people are crying out.
Yes.
And so, but even through the beauty of all of this, it's like my past, but, even I can still see the growth. I can still see the growth in, even though like, accepting who I am mentally, it's also a part of seeing the growth to where I can reclaim that part of myself that no longer serves me. And so even with, the flowers growing from the womb. So a lot of this, again, is that an artist has a way of expressing things like wherever they are on their journey, we have a way to, create things from, internalizing, then it coming out without saying a word. So a lot of that, again, is more so even like the heart is crying, but it still has the Band-Aid like healing.
Yeah.
And so a lot of this is, again, it's like we don't really know people's internal battle because a lot of us has become so numb.
Yes.
And you don't really know.
We don't really know anyone.
Yeah.
I remember I think I was listening to Dr. B series of Elevation, and he was really throwing out this concept of like, we really don't know anyone. We only know our perception of them or the expression of them from our own perception, basically. So we only know how we perceive a person, but nobody really knows and fully understands who they actually are on the deepest level. They're still discovering that themselves. So there's no way for you to fully know anyone. But with your piece, your masterpiece there, the way that I interpreted it, the first thing that came to my mind was that when we are, again, perceiving or have our perception of someone, you see this man, he has muscles, he looks strong, he looks like, he could carry a mountain, right? But really inside, he's still emotional. He's a little boy. Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, he's still a little boy trying to work through the pain inside of him. So you have this idea of who he is supposed to be, and he's just trying his best to deal with whatever it is that he has going on. And that particular piece is like he's on this healing journey, but there's so many different things that he has to experience, that so many dark places he has to go to in order to get to essentially the light, right? Essentially who it is that he desires to be. So that's really, really beautiful. I'm glad that you shared that with us. We're so honored to be able to see that and experience that here. And if you guys are listening in on voice, just show a piece of his art, and that's what we're kind of deciphering here. But it's absolutely beautiful. So
Yeah,
thank you for sharing that.
absolutely.
Okay.
I do want to add this before we go to the next one. There's a sister. Her name is, I believe, it's Sola Ra, and she actually was like spoke on how all of this is really about reclaiming, retrieving, recovering our childhood innocence, the crown of glory of our childhood innocence. No matter what career, no matter what we're doing, you see a lot of what these power struggles is having to do with a lot of wounding, having to do with a lot of, wanting to feel a sense of empowerment. But really, in essence, it's a weakness.
It's a fear.
It's a fear and it's a weakness because, somewhere somewhere in there, an aspect of self, if you haven't acknowledged it, is going to flare up. It's going to reveal itself.
Yes.
You remove the money, you remove the clothes, you remove the career, you remove all these things. There's still someone in there that is crying out for help.
Yeah. I was watching a video on Erin Lyons, and she does like channeling and stuff like that. And I forget who exactly she was channeling at this time, but basically what they were saying is that you have people in the collective right now trying to manifest like the best parts of them, or trying to manifest basically their ideal life, but utilizing these tricks and these basically tricks, right, to try and skip over the process of actually going through. And they were explaining, like, this is something that I've said before, it's just there's no way to the other side other than going through whatever the wall is, whatever the trauma is, whatever the dark place is, whatever the hurt, the pain. We have to touch it. We have to go to it, and even if it's scary, I'm someone like, I get scared sometimes, but I'm still gonna do it, right? So even when it's scary, just knowing that you're gonna come out better, you're gonna come out stronger, by really allowing yourself to feel, allowing yourself to experience and heal, and go on to the other side of whatever it is that you're coming up against. But I think that's something really wonderful to highlight, because in society right now, everything is like microwavable. Everything is like in a click of a button, right? And it would be great to just to press the button and be like, all right, I got everything that I want. I am my absolute highest self. I got everything in this dimension that I could possibly, aspire to. But again, highlighting that we are reprogramming ourselves from when we were not just in our mother's womb, but before we were even here in the physical, right? We've got generations after generation after generation after generation, right, of things that we are coming up against, but we are powerful enough to do it. We are just really remembering that power, right, and stepping into that power, because we have everything that it takes. But it is also going to take time and a process. Now, what that looks like for each individual is different, and that is okay. We really, have to honor each other and give each other space and ourselves space to journey however we journey. But yeah, just highlighting that we can use different modalities. We can, understand the universe and how everything works, but there's no way to trick God, okay, or trick your highest self, right? We really have to, like you mentioned, Terrence, just really face those things head on and go through them. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
and you mentioned actually connecting again with that inner child, and even with your art piece there, right? Mm-hmm. Talking about that innocence, how do we go about, or how do you go about reclaiming that for yourself personally?
Ooh. I would say learning the art of detachment, and more so because See, that's how you know when you got about to get something good. And see, that's where you like. How could I say this? That was an elder that said, I believe it was Bobby Emmett. He was talking about how your past is your future, and I was like, "What you talking about?" If you really look at your past, or when I look at my past, I realize that, and I heard someone say this the other day. It's like you can get glimpses of your future and your dreams or visions, but the future to be experienced. We're experiencing the future now, but also the past really never leaves us. It's like the shadow, until you're actually in that darkness. But what I've learned is that even if it seems, I don't know who this is for, but even if it seems like I tell myself I'm going backwards, you're really going forward. Because how would you have to know who it is? How would I have known who it is, who I am, or the becoming of who I am, if I don't learn about who I am, or what my grandmother went through, or what my grandfather, great grandfather? So a lot of that inner child, or learning that aspect, is you're going to learn through other people who are afraid of that, who haven't acknowledged that. You're going to see that behavior displayed in people who are so much in this delusion of being so much of an adult. What does that even really mean? You're so much of an adult to where you even forget about the child. That's why we have kids, is because they remind us of the innocence of who we are. But and I always use that inner child is more so like you're your own tree. So you have to find knowledge. It's just as big as the branches are in how the tree expresses itself. And that's from like, the tree being a masculine aspect of who we are, how we express ourselves. But the root of who you are in the darkness, because the roots are in the darkness, is that femininity, or that feminine expression that is always evolving, always changing, because that's energetically who we are, and what we also have embodied or experienced from our mothers, the matriarch. But those roots, I had to learn mostly as a man that represents the patriarchal, but both still having feminine and masculine principles, or carrying those energies. I had to learn a lot of what I'm here to share. A lot of my pain in my inner child, or learning this journey, was experienced so much from women. And it wasn't that they were to blame, but it was so much of what I experienced with them, down to what I'm recovering. I remember we had our talk when I was saying, a part of your inner child is like you recovering, retrieving that. It's also seeing the distorted way of what you learned as that child, to see that inner child, to reclaim that inner child, to actually have the courage. And I give you like this image of like, you can say the adult you, we can say all that, but it's like you going in that darkness and seeing that little child, the you that left you there, the you that's been crying out inside, and you grabbing them by the hand, and in that inner essence saying like, I've been here all along. I've been waiting on you. And that's that light that's within you. So you grab the hand, and you have to walk light and dark with who you are. Because everyone here is somewhat either a villain in someone's story. But you are your own hero in your story. You can only save yourself. And that's why I feel that inner child is, it's like, let me go and save myself. And it's just like when you're a child, your imagination. That's your imagination. You're reclaiming your imagination before it was robbed from you. Reclaiming who you are, the innocence before your mother, your father. And I always tell people, who were you before the world told you who to be? Who were you before the universe?
Yes.
Who was you before all these other people outside of you told you who to be? Now go get and recover and retrieve and claim that which you thought was taken and stolen from you, which really that was inside of you all the time. So when we hear people talking about, oh, what is a spiritual journey? Or what is all of this? It's not those people looking for clout, which, like I heard a sister say, like the real is a new fake right now, because people so solely now want to be so real that they're faking it. But it used to be y'all was so fake that it looked so real. So now that's when you're gonna be able to see, when you really see those who have done the shadow work, the inner work, to recovering. You're talking about spiritual warfare, removing, all these people like, oh, you're not gonna be this, oh, you're not gonna be that. Can you imagine mentally from women that say I hate you? I've heard, and I love me so much to where, reconnecting and having that divine connection or connection with source is you knowingly knowing that the world may hate you. People are gonna hate you. People are gonna say whatever it is. People are gonna love you. People are gonna love versions of you. People are gonna, and that means they will never love you to that extent to where they haven't even met themselves that deeply. They're only gonna love, oh, I love that version of him. Oh, I love that version of her. Until what? To your connection to your inner child, your inner self, higher self, however you perceive it, is knowing that that has never changed with the divine. That will never change. Because, if we're made in the image of the Creator, then as you come to this knowingness, you will see that everyone else is that also that image, or reflect that in a way. Or simply, what are you just coming here to do? You trying to rob me of my joy? And that's the thing. I want to get into that. That inner child, also called spiritual currency. That cannot be bought with a price. That cannot be manipulated. That cannot be persuaded. See, as you on this journey, you will realize, that's what they don't teach. Spiritual currency is something that your light has always shined since you've been here. You wondering why you get them looks when you go in there. Ooh, girl. Ooh, man, look at that. It didn't make sense to me. But it was, in spiritual currency, it's in you. It ain't on you. And it's always been in you.
So good. Yeah.
Always been in you. So that's why they say many are called, but few are chosen. In reality, everyone has a calling. And that's what I believe.
That's literally what I was saying. Everyone has a calling.
I mean, because they're here. But when you're chosen, it's when you choose to pick up the phone. And
that's exactly. It's not even that you yourself are just so chosen or so special. We're all chosen. We're all special. It is up to you to decide, okay, I am going to pick up the mantle. I am going to live out my soul's purpose here on this earth. I want my light to shine. I'm going to shine my light. That's really what it is. There's no, this person is more important than that person. No. We are all lights.
That's what source is. It's the oneness. And that's what's returning here to this realm and this reality is that, and I love, I almost said Earth, Wind, Fire, but Frankie Beverly and Maze. Y'all should go listen to this song. It's called We Are One. And when he talking about we are one, it's, he says like how, we judge others. And no matter how it's said or done, we are one regardless. Because we're all in the maze of life. But in the bigger picture, the grand scheme of it all, we're all returning to source. We're all returning to something, and that's something people are seeking. And when you call it source is love. We're just resources. If you start to see people as resources, then you will realize like, okay, this person really ain't come to block me. They ain't blocked nothing. You'll start to see, oh, that's just like, what they call it, roadblocks. But really, there's always another way.
Always.
Or when you talk about not just roadblocks, but it's just that in the spiritual term, it's like that redirection is for your protection. That's the calling that's
and understanding that what is seemingly a roadblock or seemingly a no it all works out for your highest good anyway.
That's why I was getting
It's all
for that. Yeah.
no, yeah, it all works out for your highest good anyway. So when you can actually come from a place where like you don't feel like things are happening to you, but they're happening for you instead, it changes the entire experience of life. Yeah. Now, you may get thrown up for a loop sometimes. You might, get upset here and there. That's fine. But creating this new awareness where you say, okay, that's not what I thought would happen, or that's not what I planned on happening, but I know that source is here. I know that my highest self is here. So if this happened the way that it did, it's done, and it is working out for my highest good. And that helps put you in a healthier mind frame and allowing you to just continuously, live in your light and live happily and peacefully.
If we realize that even everyone, one thing I learned, and it came to me when you were saying that, is that we have to reaffirm ourselves that everyone, no matter if it's your kids, whomever it is in your life, they're aiding you. They're an aid into your healing or upon your journey. And I always tell myself, it can only get better. It always gets better. You know what I'm saying? I'm reminded when I look at trees, when I see the garden that I planted with someone, I was like, dang. I'm like, oh, okay, I see that. Some plants may grow. Some plants may not even come out, but they're still growing. You've always been growing. And that's the thing about becoming. You're always still growing. You're never stagnant. It may seem that way, but you have always been growing. I saw something that says, can you believe that when you were born, there was a tree planted when you were born, and that tree is still planted, or that tree is still growing? So I'm like, dang, okay. So you're never not growing. And see, that's that you said something where, that's where the polarity is at. Once you choose that self-care, loving self, honoring who you really are, and reconnecting with source, you're no longer in victim mentality, victimization. Right. It's no longer blaming other people. It's taking account for who you are, what you're here to do, even to the depths of even accepting what some may call a physical death, because it's going to happen to everyone. It has already. I mean, you look at the Lion King, Simba. We are all in the, cycle of life. So in that's also the butterfly choosing to its own path. I just had a ladybug literally fly on the phone. That's wild. I needed to see that. Or, But you see, that's when you learn to walk in victory. You can, I feel like the caterpillar is not so much of I perceive it like this, because this is my opinion on it. It's like the caterpillar could be used as a victim until it chooses to become the victor. So that's your choice. Every day, every moment, you're choosing to be victorious in something. I don't care if you just got up and laid there and you just gave gratitude to, like, I'm breathing, I'm healthy, I'm here. It's so many things we can be grateful for, and I feel like that's what a lot has to do with walking in victory, rather than, why my day ain't going like this, why this can't happen, all this. And I'm learning even how these things are being removed from my path. See, and as you choosing this path, you're going to also see the energy of people that what no longer serves you also will be removed. And so it does get better. And that's where you feel that honoring that inner child is learning to feel safe again, learning to feel secure again. We're reclaiming our own security within. Because externally, we've been trying to seek those things through money, through external things, which never are fulfilled. I mean, what Lauryn Hill say, how you gonna win if you ain't right within? So you gotta be fulfilled, a sense of fulfillment, knowing that you are whole, you are full within your own essence before I can go out here and tell somebody about themselves. Because who am I to tell you when I'm sitting here trying to pour in my cup that shit about 20-something, 30 years, you got to see that not only have our women, but you're talking about people who've been pouring from a dry cup. They've been giving. Cup been dry, and why this happened to me, Lord? Why I can't receive? Because we've been trying to tell you. Learn to pour into yourself. And that's one of the most scariest things. It's not just, you don't know how it looks. Yeah. That's why a lot of us be guided to videos, or a lot of us trying to find that through other people. Seeking out this love, you know, and that's what a lot of what's been happening is that in order to even reclaim that inner child, or even for me even to act this out, I had to see where I was trying to find love in other things rather than myself. Shoot, I wrote a poem. Sound like a script. Talking to my heart. It was deep. Like I was having a conversation with my heart. You know, I'm a writer, but I was just having a conversation with my heart, like, hey, heart. And you know, and it just goes a little bit like my heart said, like, you know, well, how could I help you? And I was saying, like, you know what, I've been trying to go through this love thing and I keep falling short. Well, my heart was like, well, what do you require of me? I only been known to do one thing, and that's simply love. But in that rebuttal, or in that thing, it's more so where my heart was also saying, like, well, you've been overgiving. You've been oversaturating. You've been overly stimulating, you know, giving so much of yourself to others where you've forgotten about me. And that's where self-love and that inner child comes in. It's like we've forgotten about our freaking selves. Like if I had my book out here, I read that thing. Let me tell you something.
No, that sounds so beautiful, because we really are full within yourself. Your heart is full. Your spirit is full. You are just full of love. There's actually a children's book called Full that me and my girls read. But when you are really full and taking care of yourself and loving yourself, then you're able to pour. And it's a beautiful thing. Then you're not trying to constantly give out of yourself out of anxiety, out of, what is the word? Responsibility. Oh, yeah, out of fear of being alone. That's a really good one. Right?
Let me tell you.
Yes. The relationship, the codependency, relationships, friendships, work relationships, titles at jobs. Oh my gosh, that's a whole nother thing we will have to get into for another episode. But when you're talking about, I know, yes, because there's just so much to go into. But when we were talking about reclaiming the inner child, it reminded me of these something I spoke about on this channel before on the Godness Podcast is a form of like energy healing, and this was something I kind of like happened into. Working with there's a lady named Somway and then another lady named Cheryl, who introduced me into something called, I think it's called Azarius healing, but I just call it energy healing because that's basically what it is. But what I feel like it really is like a big game of connect the dots, because what it challenges you to do is think about whatever it is, whatever issue that you're facing now in the present moment. It challenges you to go back to the first time that you ever experienced that emotion, that you've ever experienced this type of situation. And it always takes you back in general to your childhood. And this week, I actually found myself talking to my 6-year-old self, having a conversation with her about not feeling adequate or not feeling like I have enough experience to show up in my work or show up in my play. Because this is what I do. And and I call it my play. And I was like, I have learned from so many great teachers like Billy Carson, Dr. B. Serious, Elizabeth Hoekstra, just amazing people like Buddha, right? Like Yeshua, like there's just so many individuals, so many beings, and feeling like, well, Brianna has been on this scene for about 6 months. And really talking to myself about that and realizing with myself, she was telling me like, you are so magical. We are all magical. And basically just going back and forth with myself. And I had the opportunity to go to a moment where I felt really frustrated, and I felt like this in my 6-year-old, 7-year-old self. And I had the opportunity to reparent her, to tell her all the things that Brianna at 9 years old would have told her if I had that experience at that time. And so she had the opportunity to reparent me. I had, or more like inspire me. I had the opportunity to reparent her and change that story and change that dynamic and change my emotional attachment to what that was like. Yeah. And so that's something that we could, that someone who's listening to this could potentially explore, something like energy healing and really back into your past, because it actually sounds like what you were talking about when you were talking about going into your childhood. It's just in a different way, right? There's just so many different ways to get to the same place, and it's the same thing that we're doing. We're literally remembering who we were before everyone else got involved, before the TV started programming us, before somebody told you that you weren't capable of this, before someone said you need 17 different accolades to be ready to do anything, when really you get to God. You are a light. You have your own godness, your own God essence. And whenever you decide to step into that power is when you can step into that power. And so I got to be reminded of that, because it's already there. It's not something I'm learning. It's something that I already knew, that's already been a part of me. But sometimes we forget who we are. And so I got a great reminder in that. So I would recommend that too for anyone trying to reconnect also with their inner child, is maybe trying sort of energy healing. And I'll definitely leave the information for somewhere in the description below after this. So yeah.
I think the bird got something.
The birds just chirping over there. They are happy.
They are in alignment and agreement. Okay, now.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Like, that's beautifully, wonderfully expressed what you said, because as you were saying that, it's wild because I didn't ever think I would become a muralist. But when I reflect on my past, I met muralists, as an artist. And so I'll share, like, on my YouTube channel, like, my journey was it's wild. Like, so I'll try to, let's see how I sum it up. A part of reclaiming your childhood or your inner child is also, like, I had to go back to homes. Okay. I had to go back to homes that I experienced my childhood, trauma. The hotel in my YouTube videos, the hotel that I stayed at one time, after so much was going on, my mom had just got evicted. But that same hotel was, even when I was younger, my grandmother, when she was raising us, like 6 grandkids, she couldn't pay the light bill, but she had to use some money for us to stay in a hotel, that same hotel. So,
oh wow.
So, I say this probably about almost a year and a half, 2 years ago, when after my mom got evicted, us having to stay in the same hotel in the same room together.
Yeah.
Right across the street where I was birthed, where she gave birth to me.
It's all connected.
And then it's all connected to where I even had to experience, before even her getting evicted, because I don't have anything to hide. It's like the mother of my child, we had just co-created a daughter, and she wasn't even 1 yet. So not only dealing with that, where we had to part ways, a lot of that I had to heal my abandonment issues. I had to really, like, what's not expressed is that you're facing so much of yourself, rage, questioning your worth. Why am I here?
Yeah.
This just happened to my mom. You know what I'm saying? Even after the eviction, which, again, I felt like there was injustice because of the guy, that, it was mold in her trailer. It was so many things going on, because I'm sitting here still trying to process of being away from my daughter and her mother. So a lot of that, mentally, you're trying to feel a sense of worthiness, feel a sense of, do I matter?
Yeah.
Does anything I do matter? Because, did I fall short as a man? So even being at that hotel where we were there on the, voucher, you have my mother that at the time, battling with crack addiction. Then in that hotel, this is one of the most, popular hotels for drug infested, prostitution. I'm meeting people who were prostitutes. A lot of things you hear in all these stories, and you think you're going through something. So even in that process, I actually created 2 murals. Having the courage to still create, having the courage still to create art in those dark places.
Yeah.
Not getting much rest like I wanted to, because again, you have a mother that's in the room with you to where, energetically you're feeling this, she's feeling that. She's trying to make sense. She's trying to cope with what really just happened. Did it really happen?
Right.
So it's so much that you're trying to process. And I will always tell people, it's easy said and done, but don't ever beat yourself up. And the only reason we learn to beat ourselves up is because we've been beaten up physically, spiritually, mentally, our whole life until now. And so we're unlearning that, and we're trying to recover that innocence. And so even through living at that hotel, I had to walk through the neighborhoods where I was sexually abused, verbally abused. I had to walk through the neighborhoods, through the homes.
Yeah.
To get to those places to actually create this mural. It is just a lot to where you're passing through. That's just like the storm comes only to clear the way. So a lot of what I was reminded is that I'm the raging storm. But a lot of what we're trying to recover in that inner child is that we're all raging storms. I learned this with women. It's like a woman is a raging storm. She's perfect in that she's a perfect storm, but a lot of us haven't, she or us hasn't learned to be the eye in that storm. To calm their own storm. Because it's easy for us to come around and wreak havoc, because we've been so programmed to think that pain is a necessity. Dysfunction, being imbalanced is a necessity. Being all effed up, being distorted is a necessity. And, that's the dysfunction. That's the mental illness. But, it took for me to have a lot of courage even to this very moment. Now I self-reflect, and now even giving gratitude to myself, which is source, giving gratitude like, man, you don't realize the journey you just came off of from living in a hotel to now, where I can just rest at night in peace. It's the simple stuff where I can rest, where I'm being fed, where I have a roof, where source will replace the women, that was so much dysfunctional that fueled, that's dysfunctionality, or, fuel those things because of their fear of not wanting to change, because they're refusing to face their own darkness. To now replacing, like I was talking to you about, now replacing you, such as yourself, with healthier versions of yourself. The version that you chose to go see, the dark, the dark aspect of yourself, and now replacing that. Everything is, like I said, the storm comes, but without the rain, without all those things, how will we grow?
Yeah.
How will we truly be ourselves? Okay.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yes. When you were talking about
being, I will tell you that I am, I think 20%, but it'll be good for now.
Yeah. Actually, there was so much more that we want to talk about, but honestly, we're going to have to come back for a part 2. Because I feel like what we have shared about our own personal journeys thus far is it's a big chunk that needs to be
It's a seed
dissected.
planting.
Yes, it is. And I think people need some time to process it. Even I need some time to process it because it really helped me in just like, no, literally helped me in working through some of the things in my own mind. And honestly, it's so beautiful, like when you're having a conversation or just experiencing something in life and you realize just how everything is so connected, because so many of the dots from the butterfly to connecting with the inner child, just so many different ways that God, source, our highest selves, our loving and pure ancestors, are just like guiding us and showing us and helping us know that like we are aligned and like in the right place at the right time. So I think that this is great for us to really just take in, sit with. Okay. So we just covered, right, the art of self-love. So before we wrap up, I just kind of want to reiterate for everyone that self-love is a regard for your own well-being. Okay. Simply put, right. And in loving yourself first, you are able to give from a full cup and to an even greater capacity where you're not feeling super anxious and super fearful around everything that you do. And I know what that's like. We both know what that's like to just constantly give, and be in such a frenzy state. You don't even really realize that you are in a frenzy state, right? So really taking some time to love on yourself by bringing self-awareness to where you are right now in this moment, by taking some time to yourself, even if you've never done it before, do it, okay? Even if you're afraid of what's going to come up at 5 minutes or what's going to come up in that hour space, it's time for us to face those things head on, because that is the only way for us to truly heal and become the best versions of ourselves that already exist. We're just basically remembering who and what we are right now, okay? And then also with connecting. Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah.
You said go to the playground?
Like on this, it's like if that's anything I would leave anyone with is that I tell people you don't have to believe anything I said, but more so believe in yourself. And we're learning to do that again, because if I look at the polarity of things, what connects us is pain. Yeah. What also connects us is love. So we're learning now that, okay, we know, and this is a solution. We know that our pain, we can talk about our problems all day, but what's the solution to all of this? And I would tell people, some people may need to hear that. Like sometimes I take out time to go on a walk. That'll help you clear your mind. Go to a playground, and that'll reconnect you to who you are, your inner child, and that'll even bring up wounding. See, a lot of this is like you can't really escape your pain.
Yeah,
we're in a place
it's
now
coming up for a reason.
Yeah, so it's like painting isn't just I'm reconnecting through it, but that's also what was one thing that I done in elementary that I know that it was going to change the world, and I see it happening now.
Yes, I love that. And with the piece that you just showed us, I'm excited to see that. And I think too, another thing to highlight is with everything that we do, it creates a ripple effect. So everything that you do to work on yourself, to become a better version of yourself, to heal, to grow, even if you don't see it right now in this very moment, you don't feel it right now, just know that you are creating a ripple effect. Everything that you do sets off like an alarm, okay? It permeates the universe and creates whatever it is that you are focusing on. So if you're focusing on loving yourself and putting that out, you will get that back in return, and you will heal and you will grow, even if you don't feel it right now. Just keep going, keep pressing forward. You are worthy. You are worth it. You are so loved. We love you, and we appreciate you for joining us on this episode of the Godness Podcast. The art of loving yourself. If you want to connect with us further, please go to our Instagram or all socials at Godness Community. You can also go to godnesscommunity.com/join and join our community there. We are a community of multi-minded individuals who share a common desire, and that is illuminating the God within. We believe that everyone's spiritual journey is their own, and we respect that and we honor that. And I'm just here to create a safe space where we can continue to grow together. So Terrence, how can our audience here connect with you further afterwards?
Me? Oh man. This is where them
Well,
healthy
your YouTube
boundaries come
channel.
in. This is where them healthy I believe we talked about like how I guess I can put my YouTube link, or that on YouTube is Terrence with an E, Mighty, like strong, Mighty One. That's ONE. I almost had like a brain fart. I'm like, and Facebook is Terrence with an E, with all E's actually, and Heru HERU, and Hinkle HINKLE. To contact me, I think we're gonna put the email in the description.
Yeah. Yes.
And preferably my Gmail. And yeah, that's innerchild138@gmail.com. So inner INNER child 138 at gmail.com. And this is where also if I do have art available, and if you're open to connecting, partnerships, maybe even scheduling something. Sometimes people need a ear to listen, or someone to just know that, as you were saying, like you're vital. Like we're all a puzzle piece. Whomever in the past, they also were a puzzle piece. They just wasn't. If you're outgrowing them, they just wasn't that puzzle piece to fit so much of the grand scheme of what you're becoming and who you're becoming, because you again are that puzzle in the grand scheme of it all coming together. So that's my social media. So this was fun. This was amazing. I'm like, and it's a full moon and sad, so I'm like,
yeah. So we'll put all of Terrence's contact information down below. So please be sure to reach out to him for his art, to watching his YouTube channel, which is amazing, and really connecting and inquiring about whatever services you feel like you can collaborate on. So Terrence, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. This was absolutely incredible. When you hopped on this, when we first hopped on, I was just like, oh, I am so happy to see you. Like, such a good energy. I just know it'll be so beautiful and transformative. So thank you so much for everything that you shared, because I learned so much today, and I feel very much full of love. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Give an honor to Source and our ancestors, known and unknown, those that paved the way prior to us even, them creating this atmosphere and this environment. Because that's something I always have to do, like give an honor to the matriarchal and patriarchal, because that's one thing I've learned on this journey is that if you don't have knowledge of those that came before you, well, where are you going? How will you know where your journey is being led to? So, that's all I got. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, thank you for that. Yes. All right, everyone. Thank you again. Please share with us in the comments how you feel about this episode. Share with us any ways that you go about showing love to yourself, and where are you on your self-love journey? We'd love to hear from you. And until the next episode of the Godness Podcast, blessings, friends, and we'll see you soon. Bye.